The crystal chandeliers of the Zephyrian Imperial Palace cast rainbow fractals across the marble floors, illuminating the most prestigious gathering in the galaxy. Representatives from 100 worlds mingled beneath floating platforms where anti-gravity waiters served delicacies that cost more than most planets' annual budgets. Tonight marked the celebration of Emperor Vextar's adoption of a baby dragon, the first successful interspecies bonding in galactic history. Naz pressed herself against the service corridor wall, clutching her cleaning supplies as nobles swept past in their shimmering robes. As the only human servant in the palace, she had grown accustomed to being invisible. Her plain brown uniform marked her as beneath notice, which was exactly how she preferred it. The less attention she drew, the safer she remained in this world of cosmic politics and alien aristocracy. "The human contamination spreads even here," sneered Lady Quixana, her serpentine neck twisting toward her companion as they passed. "I heard she actually touches the Emperor's belongings with those primitive hands." Naz's grip tightened on her sonic duster, but she kept her eyes down. 3 years of service had taught her that responding only made things worse. Humans were barely considered sentient by most of the galaxy's advanced species, tolerated only as cheap labor for tasks too menial for civilized beings. The grand ballroom doors burst open, and Emperor Vextar himself entered, his 6 arms spread wide in greeting. The reptilian ruler's scales gleamed emerald and gold, and nestled against his chest was a small silver dragon no larger than a house cat. The creature's eyes sparkled with ancient intelligence despite its infant size. "Behold Zix, heir to the throne of Draconis Prime," the Emperor announced, "the first dragon to accept non-draconic guardianship in 10,000 years. The crowd erupted in applause, but Naz noticed something others missed. The tiny dragon's head turned, scanning the room until those brilliant silver eyes locked onto hers. A spark of recognition flashed between them, a memory of countless nights when she had smuggled food scraps to the scared, hungry hatchlings she'd found abandoned in the palace gardens months ago. Prince Korthax, the Emperor's nephew and heir, apparent before tonight's announcement, stepped forward with a goblet raised high. His smile was sharp as a blade. A toast to this unique arrangement, though one wonders if a creature of such noble lineage should be exposed to the lower elements. Within these walls, his gaze swept to Naz with deliberate malice. "Indeed," Lady Quixana added loudly. "Perhaps we should ensure only the most refined influences shape such a precious mind. Surely the palace can afford proper servants now." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naz felt heat rise in her cheeks as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward her. She had endured whispers and sideways glances, but never such public humiliation. Her hands trembled as she backed toward the service entrance. "I quite agree," Prince Korthax continued, emboldened by the crowd's attention. "Tell me, human." He spat the word like a curse. "What wisdom could your primitive species possibly offer the future ruler of 2 empires? The ballroom fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the gravity generators. Naz's mouth went dry. Protocol demanded she bow and retreat, accepting whatever punishment awaited her. But something in the tiny dragon's expectant gaze made her stand straighter. I don't know about wisdom, Your Highness," she said quietly. "I only know about kindness." Harsh laughter erupted from the nobles. "Kindness," Prince Korthax scoffed, as if such sentiment has any place in ruling. His words died as the baby dragon suddenly launched itself from the Emperor's arms, tiny wings beating frantically as it soared across the ballroom. The crowd gasped, several dignitaries diving aside as the silver streak shot past their heads. Zix landed gently in Naz's arms, nuzzling against her neck with a contented purr that resonated through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The dragon's voice, clear as crystal bells, rang out with telepathic clarity that touched every mind present. "She's always been my mother." The revelation hit the gathering like a shockwave. Images flooded their shared consciousness. Naz finding the abandoned egg in the garden refuse, keeping it warm against her body during cold nights, sharing her own meager meals with the hungry hatchling after it emerged. They saw her reading to the young dragon from salvaged books, teaching it languages and stories, comforting it through nightmares and illness when its own kind had cast it out as defective. When I was dying from star sickness, she stayed awake for 7 days straight, feeding me nectar drop by drop. When the frost fever nearly took me, she wrapped me in her own clothes and sang human lullabies until I healed. When I learned to speak, her voice was the first I heard call me Precious One. Emperor Vexitar's expression transformed from confusion to wonder to something approaching awe. You raised my son? Alone? Naz nodded, her voice barely a whisper. He was dying, Your Majesty. I couldn't just leave him. The dragon's mental voice grew stronger, filled with fierce pride. She never sought reward or recognition. When the palace staff threw me scraps like garbage, she gave me her own dinner. When others called me a freak for having silver scales, instead of gold, she told me I was the most beautiful creature in the galaxy. She is not just my mother, she is the finest soul I have ever known. Prince Korthak stepped backward, his face ashen. The nobles who had laughed now stared at Naz with a mixture of shame and amazement. Lady Quixana's serpentine form coiled in on itself as if trying to disappear. Emperor Vextar approached slowly, his 6 arms folded in the deepest gesture of respect his species possessed. "Forgive me," he said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I named you servant when you were already family. I proclaimed myself guardian when the bond was already formed by love, not law." He turned to address the gathering, his voice booming with imperial authority. "Let it be recorded in the annals of both our peoples. Naz of Terra is hereby named, Dragon Mother of the Royal House with all rights and privileges therein. And let any who question the worth of humanity remember this night when one human's compassion accomplished what our combined technologies could not." She gave a dying, Prince not just life, but love. The baby dragon's purr intensified as Naz held him close, tears streaming down her face. Around them, the cream of galactic society knelt in acknowledgement of a truth as old as the stars themselves, that the measure of a being lies not in their species or station, but in the size of their heart. In the years that followed, when historians spoke of the Great Dragon Alliance that brought peace to the Outer Rim, they would trace its origins to this moment, when a humble human maid reminded the galaxy that sometimes the greatest strength lies in the simplest kindness.